Welcome to Weekly Lift. I am Latoya Logan, and we are back with episode 4 of our Cultivating Harmony series. And today we are going to focus on strategic yeses and thoughtful nos. Now, I know you're probably thinking, I know exactly how to say yes and no. And for the most part, of course you do. But this refers more to being self-aware, conscious decision-making, and practical steps, which builds on last episode of actionable alignment. So in that episode, we really talked about how it's important to align your actions, your decision-making, your self-reflection, and even criticism with your values, principles, and intended outcomes in order to achieve harmony. We can't always control every yes and every no because, as you know, sometimes we're just going to have to get some things done and we're just going to have to miss out on some things we want to do. But for the most part, in most of our decision making, we can be more strategic and we can be more thoughtful. So today, focusing on strategic yeses, we define a strategic yes as a deliberate decision that evaluates the intended impact on our goals, on our strategy, and of course, on our value system. And so when we are evaluating strategic yeses, to say yes to a project, to an outing or an activity, or to a purchase, we should be thinking about whether or not we're doing it out of obligation or impulsivity. Obligation is difficult. Sometimes we have transactional relationships and we feel as though we have to repay people, even if we're tired, even if we really aren't going to show up in the way that we would like to. And other times we might feel impulsive because in the moment it feels like this could be right for me. And a strategic yes requires you to sometimes give yourself 24 hours, take a break, and really look at the larger plan that you have for your project, for your finances, for your relationships, to see if saying yes is going to align well with your values and with the outcome you want to achieve. So I've been really thinking about this in preparation for this particular episode. And last week I had a very heavy training schedule, and this week I have a heavy training schedule as well. And I had an opportunity on Saturday to train all day foster parents and adoptive parents, which is hard work for me as a foster care kid and a kid who was adopted. I will always make time for that. But I thought, I did not really evaluate what my January was going to look like. As I'm planning all these trainings and trying to get my schedule together, I didn't think, wow, perhaps stringing along 6 training days back to back is not the smartest thing to do, especially when I am prioritizing my health and rest to ensure that I can remain in a state of harmony with all the things that I have to do. So as much as I would love to say it wasn't an impulsive decision to accept that training, it wasn't a strategic decision to say yes. So in that case, if I really wanted to train on that Saturday to give back to the foster parents and adoptive parents, it would have been more practical and definitely more in support of my harmony to say, okay, well, maybe I won't train the week before just to give myself some time to get ready for the next week. So we don't often think that impulsivity it happens when we're thinking thoroughly, but sometimes it happens when we're not really considering everything else that has to occur in that week or everything that you may have to do following that particular event. With a strategic yes, you're always going to evaluate value alignment. So what are your core values and principles that are guiding your decision making? As I just mentioned, for me, training foster parents and adoptive parents is hard work. It's a way for me to give back and to also share my personal experience to strengthen some of those new foster parents in that hard work that they're endeavoring to do. And if that is true for my value, that's important to me, then I have to think more holistically when making my schedule so that I'm not undercutting another value or not prioritizing something else that is just as important. Additionally, we want to think about impact evaluation. What's the intended impact? I know for me as a Black woman with my lived experience in foster care and adoption, there aren't many of us, certainly not training foster parents. And the impact of being able to do that far exceeds not having the sleep. However, the other trainings, I had 100% control over when they were scheduled. And so sometimes it's really looking at, okay, you can have this impact, but maybe tweaking your schedule a bit so that it flows a little bit better to support all of the areas of harmony that you are trying to prioritize. We want to make sure that we're making decisions with clear intent, that we're communicating why we're saying yes, what we're hoping to achieve from saying yes, because we want to prevent feeling overcommitted or feeling burnt out. And I can tell you, and I know you probably know this, what it feels like to be overwhelmed, to be disconnected, to feel burnt out from doing something you absolutely love. It's not a great place to be in, and it can sometimes make you say no to other opportunities because you don't want to experience that again. So clearly and intentionally making sure that you're scheduling what you need to schedule to support the overall goals of what you're doing. Now, this takes us to thoughtful no's. Anyone who knows me knows that no is my favorite word. I love saying no. Sometimes I say it and I don't even know that is what I said. But with a thoughtful no, you cannot do that. Thoughtful no's require that you have sat down and given due diligence to considering how this is going to impact the other person, if it really is even smart to say no in the moment. And of course, sometimes you may want to think about whether or not there are alternatives you can engage in. Now, some of us, we don't say no because we are concerned about losing an opportunity. So when I am about to say no, I always consider what alternatives can I offer to the person instead of a flat no. Now, it may not be necessary to do that because I do believe that no is a full sentence. It's a complete sentence. When you say no, it's no. But there are times when it's important to still nurture the relationship because of future collaborations, because maybe it's no today, but it could be yes in the future. So there are times when making suggestions, offering an alternative to what has been requested is going to be extremely important. When you offer an alternative with your thoughtful no, then it shows the other person that, one, they are respected, they were heard, they are valued, their needs are just as important as your needs. And while it's no today, here's what I can do moving forward. Some areas that we struggle to say no in are declining a social invitation. And, it could be because of prior commitments, or it could just be because you would like to rest. I'm one of those people, as soon as I walk in my house, if you let me get in there, I'm probably not going to come back out unless it's some emergency or just as an opportunity that I cannot miss, like Denzel Washington is at the Highness. I don't know. But it would have to be something pretty big for me once I get in the house. And if I've gotten in the house and gotten into the road, I'm definitely not coming back out. So sometimes it's hard to say to a person no, because then they say a thing like, well, what are you doing? I'm sitting on my sofa watching TV, and that is what I prefer to do at this moment. Love you, but that's what I prefer to do at this moment, and that's totally okay. Sometimes we have to turn down a business opportunity because it doesn't align well with what we're doing at the moment, or we know we would be overextended if we took on that particular project. So it can be difficult to say no in that instance, particularly if you're a growing business, or if you are dealing with a scarcity mindset, which we're going to talk about in the next episode. When you have built up everything you have from nothing and you don't have a lot of resources, saying no to an opportunity, it sounds ridiculous in the moment. So I totally understand that. However, when you're prioritizing, and I do believe that what is meant for you is meant for you, when you do what you do well, the yeses are going to come to you that are appropriate for you. But you have to make sure that you've said no to some things that are less appropriate, that you can't give the time to and don't align well in order to make way for that yes, that it's going to be life-changing for you and your business. When we're not engaging in strategic yeses and thoughtful no's, we can experience resentment and hostility. Resentment because we feel forced to do a thing that we don't want to do. We feel forced to do a thing that makes us uncomfortable. We feel forced to do something that is taking away from something else that we believe is more important in our life. And those are all valid reasons and emotional responses to saying yes when you really mean no, or saying no when maybe you should have said yes. So prioritizing the evaluation and self-awareness of your emotions is so important, because you're going to feel whether you should say yes or no before it actually culminates into a full thought in your brain. So trust your feeling. If something feels off, question it. It doesn't mean that you should say no or yes. It just means that perhaps additional thought is necessary, additional evaluation is necessary. Now, resentment can manifest in a lot of different ways. It can be irritability, where everything is ticking you off, and you know that you wake up irritable. You're driving, and if you have road rage, it really escalates pretty poorly. And you may interact not at your best level with your staff or with your coworkers. So being open to feedback, if people are telling you, hey, you're a little bit off, is important, because that can help you to sit and do some self-reflection. Negative thoughts are a byproduct of resentment. This, oh, I don't know if I can get it done, not sleeping well because the thoughts are constant and just kind of like bombarding you at different moments. And it can result in avoidance. So you just stop doing things. You avoid the person that you're working with, you avoid people, you avoid things that could be close to whatever is related to that project or that activity. And all those things can lead to significant consequences, because it can eat at your credibility. It can make people believe that you don't follow through, that you're not trustworthy, or that you're incompetent. Other ways that resentment might manifest is in passive aggressive behavior. Some of you by nature are passive aggressive. And this is where you're not addressing things directly. You might be using sarcasm or humor or very hyperbolic responses to manage the stress associated with that yes or that no. And when you do that, then it does create imbalance in the collaboration and the partnership, and it will make people want to pull away because you're not directly addressing things, you're talking around it. And then finally, you can experience emotional disconnection, where this is something you really love to do, but because you feel so pulled, because you feel burned out, because you feel overwhelmed, you have emotionally disconnected. And your emotions are your assets. That's what keeps you engaged and invested, is the ability to remain elated or moved by what you are doing. If you're like me, when I love a thing and I believe that it has a positive impact, even when I'm tired and it's like, I don't want to do this, I'll rest, but I'll get up the next day ready to go. You don't want to become emotionally detached where you just throw your hands up, I can't do it. Ways to really work around that are going to be being honest with yourself, like really allowing yourself to set limits, to think about why you're doing what you're doing, and to have clear communication with those you are partnering with. So sometimes it's just you're not saying to the person, I don't have the capacity to do this right now, or what you're asking for is far too great for the time frame that you're asking for the return in the project or whatever it might be. So strategic and yeses and thoughtful no's are not about just saying yes or no. It's strategy. It truly is about utilizing the power of discernment to see if a partnership, if an activity, if an investment, if an investment of money even, are most supportive or in alignment with the harmony you're trying to produce, your goals, your principles, and the intended impact that you may want to have. So for your homework today, what you're going to do is take some time to think about maybe the last 5 decisions you've made where you said yes or no, and you could say yes or no. What helped you to make that decision? Do you feel good about that yes and that no? And if you don't feel good about it, what would you have liked to modify so that you felt more freedom in being able to express yourself or offering an alternative? Remember, we cannot control everything. Sometimes just because of the job we have, the role we have, just how responsibilities may fall, we may have to just say yes or no. But in the cases where you really are in control, you're in the driver's seat, it's going to be to your advantage, especially if you're trying to cultivate harmony, to strategically say yes to things that align with your goals and thoughtfully say no to things that would reprioritize your focus or your personal investment. I hope this episode has been beneficial to you. As always, please like, comment. I would love to get your feedback. Share and subscribe, and have a fantastic remainder of your week.